Hi, good morning guys, thanks for joining me. Hope everybody's well. Just a real quick video today. What we're going to do is talk about this little wood gas stove. This was something which I featured on the last video. Like I mentioned last time, this is a reach unpurchased. You can pick these up from Amazon for around about £20. I've had quite a few people tell me how good they are, you know, they're worth checking out. So that's what we're going to do in today's video. We're just going to run through the spec, we're just going to see how it works, we're just going to see what it's all about. Just before we fired the stove up, I thought we'd just take a close look at it whilst it's new and whilst it's clean. And when you buy them, they do come in these nice mesh bags, as you're just going to hold everything together. And just taking a feel of it, it does feel like a double fabric. So that's also going to protect the stove and just stop things from bouncing against it. So the overall pack size of it is 5 inches in diameter, and it's also 3 inches tall. So if it is that you carry something like an MSR Seagull, anything like that, there's enough room inside one of those to actually just store your little stove in there. And that means you're going to keep all your cook stuff together. It also just means that the stove's going to be out of the way. I am used to the little bush boxes that do compact down just a little bit smaller, but for longer trips, anything like that, you know, I'm sure this is going to be perfect. So the stove itself is made out of stainless steel, and the make of it, if the camera can pick it up, this has come from a company called Tomshoo, again another Chinese company. The thing that drew me to it was delivery time. It was here in a couple of days, where some of the others, you know, you're looking at about 4 to 5 weeks. Hence the reason for going with this one, because I was looking to get one and also to try one out. So the stainless steel construction makes it nice and sturdy. The build quality is quite well. There's a few little sharp edges on it, but a little bit of heat and a little bit of use, you know, I'm sure those will smooth out. So just pulling all the sections out, this is what comes with the stove. They do give you a couple of little freebies or a few little things that you may not use anyway. And when I first pulled it out, I was a little bit concerned, how did it go together, how do you use it, you know, there was no instructions in the box. But if you do go on their website, you know, it's quite detailed. It explains all about the stoves, it explains all about the different things that you can burn in it, and it explains all about putting it together. So the stove itself's been designed so it can burn multiple fuels, and it's also been designed so it can be set up in a couple of different ways, and they've supplied all the parts here in the bag so you can do that. So just starting off with your main air ring, and that's the part which is going to go on the ground. They've also included a double air chamber, so the cold air gets drawn up and it mixes with the wood gas and then gives you a secondary burn just out of the holes at the top there. They've also included a little ash plate and also just a windproof pot stand. There's also a couple of non-slip trivets, a little spirit pan, and also there's a little bit of a barbecue. And again, these kind of things you can leave at home if you wanted to, or you can actually just put them in the pack and use them. You know, that little thing there, I shan't be using, I don't think. You know, you could perhaps just put a little bit of a sausage on it or something like that. But I suppose 99% of the time I'm going to be using the stove, you know, in this kind of fashion. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to show you just a couple of ways of setting it up. Like I said, if you're burning spirits, you're going to set it up one way. If you're going to be burning wood, it means you're going to be setting up another way. So the first configuration we're going to take a look at is if you're going to be using things like spirits or fuel tabs, anything like that. It just means you can put them in the dish and be able to boil water and cook your bit of food. So just starting off just with the main ring, that's just going to sit on the ground. And then this double chamber here, you've got this flange which just runs around it, just slots nicely just inside the chamber like so. And then the difference between burning wood and also burning your spirits is the way that you can have the ash pan. Traditionally you'd have the ash pan just placed down at the bottom so that your wood can actually sit just on the inside there. But when it comes to burning your spirits, you're just going to turn it upside down. I'm just going to drop it inside, and then it actually catches just against that little rim which just runs in the centre there. And then you can just fill up your dish there with a little bit of spirit, or like I say, you can just put just a fuel tab in. You're just going to sit that just on top, and then if you wanted to, just like your spirit, and then just get your little pot stand that just sits on top like so. And then if you wanted to, if you're using things like bottles or cups which may be just a little bit too small just for the diameter of the hole, you can then just use these couple of trivets there, just put them on and just rest your bottle or cup just on those. If it was that you didn't want to use the spirit pan, perhaps you're worried about snuffing the flames out, or perhaps you weren't going to get enough fuel in there, another way which you could perhaps do it is by using a little Tomshoo burner. You could just also put that just on top, just centralising it just into the middle of the stove, and then again that pot stand will just go on top there, and then you'll be able to have more spirit just on a little spirit burner, and then again you can snuff it out. You know, it's a lot more easier and a lot more safer in my opinion. But 99% of the time I'm going to use wood with this. If I'm going to use a spirit burner, I'll just put a little bit of a fire ring around there. I suppose if I wanted to, there's nothing stopping me just putting that on the ground, actually just putting that just in the centre and just putting a pot on top of there. So I say 99% of the time we're going to use it with wood. This is what we're going to do now. We're just going to get a fire going in it, just actually see how it gasifies and also how it works. When it comes to burning wood in the stove, you're going to get it set up in a very similar kind of manner, just making sure that the main air ring is situated nice and flush just on the ground, and then just getting the double walled chamber that just sits on top again. But this time, instead of putting the ash pan upside down, I'm just going to put it the proper way so that the wood can actually sit in there, you know, collect any coals just on the bottom, and just on the inside, that little flange again just catches the ash plate there, and like I say, the air gets drawn up there and then combusts just out of the little holes just at the top. And then just on top of that, I'm just going to sit the pot stand. I'm referring to this one as a windproof pot stand. That's because there's a little bit of a windbreak just around the outside here. But one of the main features which they say is the wide opening port here. It just allows easy feeding when the stove's lit and it's being used. So when it comes to using the trivets, you've got a couple of little cutaways just in the centre there. They just slot together. And then just on this little bit of a pot stand, you've got a couple of punch-ins there. And when you put the little trivets on, the idea is just to clip them into place, just like so. And then you can just slide them around, just so that they go and catch just against some little punches there. And that's your stove pretty much set up. What we're going to do, I've got some birch bark and I've got some dry birch there. That's going to be the fuel. I'm just going to get it going, just see how it burns, and then we're just going to time just a cup of water and just see how quick it takes just to get that going. And as you can see there, that didn't take very long to get going. And if I just take off just this little bit of a pan stand, you can now see there the flames starting just to come through them square holes, as well as the wood that's burning. And with these kind of things, you reckon they're 30% more efficient. So I don't know if that's 30% more hotter or if it needs 30% less fuel. But you know, it's certainly kicking off a little bit of heat. So we just put this cup of water on, and it's now 1:45. Usually it takes around about 15 minutes just with the traditional little kind of bush box stoves. So we're just going to see now just how long this one actually takes. Just trying to keep the handle just out of the flames. So just checking the watch, that only took 6 minutes. That's around about half the amount of time compared to the little bush box style stoves which you use. And also just in the bottom of there now, there's still a load of red coals, and there's quite a bit of heat coming off that, so I could also use that if I wanted to cook a bit of food. So they're quite right in what they're saying with the efficiency. I use very little wood, you know, and it's burned for a lot longer, and it was certainly a lot hotter. And after around about half an hour, things have started to cool down. Just a little bit of ash just left on the bottom there, and that's pretty much it. Just going to clean that out. Just tip that just in the fire pit. I'm just going to let this cool down completely, and then we can put it away, put it back in the saucepan. Job done. Just before we pack the stove away, I'm just going to give you just a quick once over. Just checking there that everything's okay. All them little valves have seemed to hold. You can just see there a bit of bluing and discoloration, just down to the heat, but everything else on it is fine. There's certainly no problem with that. And when it comes to packing it away, we're just going to reverse everything. Everything just fits together nicely and it's all stored away. Just making sure that we don't forget the little things like the trivets. And then that can go back just in the little stuff sack. And just keep that out of the way, just in the little pipe. So there you guys, just the initial look at the Tomshoo wood gas stove, £20 off Amazon, you know, worth every penny in my opinion. It burns efficiently, comes in a nice little storage bag, the build quality of the stove's not too bad. So for anyone that's interested, I will leave the links in the description box, and I'm sure you will be seeing more of it in upcoming videos. So like always guys, you just leave me to say thanks a lot for you stopping by and watching the video. Like always, until next time, you take care, and I'll see you again.